1 year on the show. I just wanted to reflect on my top 10 things that I learned this year.
We keep talking about contractors kicking ass.
As contractors, we need to educate ourselves on the difference between gross margin and net margin.
When you're counting leads, are you only counting ones that...
You don't need any more leads, man. You just need to convert more of the leads you already have. If you call within 30 minutes of leaving a message, you are 23% more likely to book that lead.
One of the cool things that I've seen, it's AI that can answer the phone with voice.
EOS, man, never ceases to just amaze me.
So tell me more about Working Genius.
If you're out there and you're struggling with systems and processes in your business, you've got to implement Working Genius.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
Well, hey, tradies, welcome to another episode of Beers with Contractors. Special episode today. Drake, cheers to you, sir.
Cheers,
to
sir.
1 year on the show. You know, it's weird to have welcome to episode 52. It just sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we celebrated with Dylan on 50. So that's why we're going back to our roots this week. Just Drake and I, back to the OGs of the podcast, but also a little bit of a breakaway. Before we get started, a few things. Thanks to the subscribers. By the way, we had like 500 followers just jump up to certain channels like TikTok. So I don't have time to go through all 500, but want to give some shout outs to the most immediate, especially on our YouTube channel. Christine Salvi, Greg Lucas, Peter Boats, Travis Roth, Jay Steins, Preston Moore, Maddie, and Marshall Smith. Thanks for subscribing. And you knew the routine. Hey, if you get a chance, please, for us and our sponsors and our guests out there, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that little button. And Drake, did you see my fancy schmancy shirt today?
Yeah, I did. Something I happen to agree with.
The new Beers with Contractors podcast store will be going live through this episode. So if you want to celebrate contractors around the country, feel free to jump on there. That'll be at williamwalkerblake.com. And I'll have a little tab on that website for you to be able to contribute. By the way, 10% of all revenue from our swag actually goes to contribute to our Construct My Future summer camp for kids. So,
and you said revenue, right? So that's gross.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of that, right? And that's a very good point. Yeah, 10% of gross revenue, which is actually much more in net profit, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Boy, that was a hot button on TikTok this last week, wasn't it, Drake?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Blew up.
Oh, man. And it was over the holidays, and I love to engage with folks on comments, but there was just too many. And then there was infighting with other people, and anyway. I want to bring joy to the internet. I don't want to. There's always going to be haters, right? But anyway, hey, listen, new episode today. A little bit different format today because Drake, we've been at this a year now, and I just kind of wanted to reflect on really even me on my top 10 things that I learned this year. Because most of the time when you grow a successful company, most people probably think you know it all, but no, you're still learning, right? It's never ending. So I like to do that to reflect back because I'm really good at screwing up, but I'm really bad at actually learning from my screw ups. So by reminding myself of, oh yeah, these are the things I learned this year, it helps prevent, Will running around with matches in the future, as my team likes to call. But yeah, so we're going to have some fun today. So top 10 lessons Will learned this last year for his business. You want to take a stab at my first one, Drake?
Well, I think that you guys talked about this, and I found it really interesting because I like assessments and understanding different things and different people. But Working Genius. So tell me more about Working Genius and how that's helped change things for you.
I got to tell you, if you're out there and you're struggling with systems and processes in your business, you got to implement Working Genius. And I'm not getting paid to say that. I am a raving fan of Working Genius. It is streamlined not only the process implementation, but also the whiplash effect that most companies see when the owner is trying to start new processes, right? Because it's like, oh, we're going to start this new process, shiny object, and then off you go. Working Genius, it evens all that out. It's been so powerful. So for any of you guys out there that know Working Genius, it's a book by Patrick Lencioni. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Pat. I've heard it pronounced a few ways, but essentially as human beings, and by the way, just to be clear, this is an assessment that really assesses your personalities. But it works great with a team. And this could work with a team of, say, an owner and a sales rep and a field employee, all the way up to like what we have, which we have a leadership team of, I think, 9 people right now in our construction company. But there's certain things that you really enjoy doing and it gets you up in the morning. That's what's your working genius. And then, of course, you have your working competencies. These are typically things that you can do, but it doesn't add or subtract to your living and your life and your happiness. And then you have working frustrations, and these are the things that just drive you fucking crazy, right? Like you can do them, but man, you are miserable. So we all naturally have two in each, and it's kind of cool how they labeled the different personality types because they spell out widget. You know, you got in the working genius, you really have wonder personalities. These are the people that are like, hey, like they wake up just, why is that way? And they typically see things that other people don't. I like to define wonder personalities as like a little child that just keeps asking why, and then it's like, just go, leave me alone, stop asking why. But then you have inventive personalities, and I am very high inventive. These are the people that are just problem solvers. Unfortunately, sometimes inventive individuals try to solve problems that don't need to be solving. And I know you know that. Drake knows it every time we come into another podcast and everything's rearranged. That's because the inventive personality says, I bet you it's better this way, right? And then Terry gets pissed that all of his equipment doesn't work. But then you get into discerners. I got to ask, Drake, are you a high discerning personality?
I don't know that I would be considered really high discerning. I'm wonder and inventive and tenacity are probably going to be the ones that's hit me.
Good. Well, I knew that's why we get along because
Yeah.
I hate discerning personalities. They're the types that poke holes in everything.
Yeah.
But my wife does remind me that for somebody that hates discerning personalities, all my best friends are discerners. So, and they're like the straitjacket on the owner of a business. And then you have your galvanizers. These are the guys and gals that can really rally the troops. They can get momentum behind an idea or an objective, and they're very important in the organization. Ironically, most owners probably have some high galvanizing features in their personality because, I mean, how do you convince people to work for you at a real small size? So then you have enablers, and these are the great people that they want to provide support. They want to find resources. They're support casting members. And then we've got tenacity. So it spells widget. The last one's tenacity. And these are the people that have to check the boxes, have to get everything done. It will drive them crazy if something is incomplete. So do you know your working frustrations and working genius?
You know, I
Drake?
don't actually. I think that might be one that I need to take because I said tenacity, but as soon as you listed what tenacity was, it's like I actually don't think I don't think
Oh,
that's me.
well, and it's funny. I'm not high tenacity,
Yeah.
and Sydney's not. And we make a joke at our company that says like, will complete everything to 90%, but never 100%.
Yeah.
And we looked at this at our house, and it's the same damn way. Like
Yeah.
we do the laundry, we clean it, we fold it, we never put it away. We live in an endless supply of laundry baskets, and it's because we're both low tenacity, so we don't even book trips very well. Because she's like, "Hey, we need to book a trip for fall break," and it's like, "Oh, the inventive person goes psh, 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 all these ideas." Sydney's discernment kicks in, pokes holes in all those ideas, and then we do nothing. So now, so now we just we've set a budget, and then we just push it to a travel agent, and it's done. And so
See,
it actually transcends into home life too. What were
that's
you going to say,
smart.
Drake?
I want to say that's smart. Once you get that person who has the tenacity, like it's like every visionary, if you know, like think about rocket fuel, like they need the integrator, right? But the integrator with tenacity to finish it out.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's a excellent book. Just to kind of preview on why it's so tied to processes. If you have an initiative in your company, you need that process to be vetted through that process of wonder, invented personalities, and discernment. And once all that's ironed out, then you hand it over to the galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity individuals, and they're the ones that make it stick so it doesn't get to become shiny object process in the company. Immensely powerful. It's awesome. How many people you have on your team, Drake?
Oh, just me and one other for right now. But I know that when I had bigger teams, it was different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what's great about small teams like our software company.
Yeah.
Is it's like, okay, I just prop up a mirror,
Yeah.
and then it's like I get to talk to my working frustration every once in a while and
Yeah.
tell him to get off his ass because we got to do it. But yeah, it's awesome. And so yeah, if you have an opportunity leading into 2025, you got to read Working Genius. It's a game changer. So cool. You know, I know you probably saw number 9, Drake.
Yep.
Right up your alley. Of course, I don't have to climb up on 300-foot tall towers, right? So I would probably have taken it more seriously if I had that type of job. By the way, did you ever try to climb the towers without your harnesses and stuff?
I had one. I had one. No, I was afraid of heights, so I didn't want to do that. But I had one time where there was a power cable halfway up that was draped across. Now it's a low voltage power cable, so I had to unhook and rehook, and
Oh,
I dropped it,
uh-huh.
and so I had to climb halfway down with my backup hooks on pegs, and it was maybe the most
Sketchy.
terrifying. Yeah, it was maybe the most terrifying thing I've ever done. I had that happen twice because I climbed once and dropped it, and then took like a 15-minute break down at the bottom while I was having my panic attack. Climbed
Yeah.
up again, went to go do it, and dropped it again. And then I climbed back
Oh.
down. I climbed back down and I was done for the day. I was like full blown meltdown. So safety is very important.
Was that the day that you quit that career?
Uh, that was my second time climbing.
Yeah. Well, man, that scares me just hearing it. Makes me nauseous.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I grew up, on roofs working for my dad's construction company, but now you put me on a roof, like, dude, I'm scared of heights now. So it's not like riding a bike. But back to number 9, voluntary safety and OSHA audits. Like we did one of these about 3 years ago. Thought we had it down where we actually invited OSHA and the Department of Labor in. And they essentially they walk through your facility. They'll check out a few job sites. They'll check out the different roles, and it's real nerve wracking because you think like, oh crap, like they're going to come in here and fine us, but no, they actually appreciate it because you're being proactive. And we really thought we had it, but we invited them back this last year, and it was amazing what we thought we had fixed, but we just didn't pick up on. They wrote them down. We were super thankful, and they picked up on things that we never thought of. I was actually really embarrassed. I didn't realize we have eye wash stations all over our office. And I guess you're supposed to flush and exchange that stuff every 6 months.
Oh,
And I think that stuff had been probably sitting in there for like 2 years. It's like, I'm trying to think, like, what was that show? Like, oh gosh, it's about the fungus that starts taking over the Last of
oh,
Us. They
okay, yeah.
and I'm picturing like that's how Last of Us started. It was because Will and his company didn't change the eye wash stations for 2 years. Poor guys, if they ever needed to use it, would be washing with it. But anyway, I feel like such a doofus. But hey, it actually helped us on our general liability insurances last year. We got a deduction on it. And just to think like that, it's easy to look at finances, but the fact is like, I mean, it went down because our accidents went down. So that means our people were safer. And it was just, if you have an opportunity to do it, it's worth it.
Yeah. It's one of those things that when you think about like why would they be motivated to be nicer? If you think about it, an OSHA person, they go in and they're inspecting someone and they only deal with negative, right?
Yeah.
People are upset at them. Oh, I didn't know. And they probably deal with arguments and frustrated people all the time. So if you say, hey, can you come look? And then you're kind of friendly to them, like you may be the most positive interaction they have all day. And so that can help you.
I know. It's kind of like, wait, you really want me here?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. But yeah, it's pretty cool what they find. And it's just, man, my employees, they see that we're doing that too. So it's not just like, hey, go out there and work in dangerous situations. We're being proactive. And from a cultural perspective, it helps tremendously. So I undervalued just how important that was. And then when we did it again this year, it was like, oh, man, everybody should be doing this in their construction company. Cool. So this is funny. On my next one, this may strike up some arguments with some contractors out there because
Okay.
obviously it's been a tough year for a lot of folks for lead generation, right? And one of the top questions I get is, where are you getting your leads? Where's you getting your leads? And sometimes I say, hey, you don't need any more leads, man. You just need to convert more of the leads you already have, right? This was super powerful to us this year. And I'll be very clear. When I look at my company, there's really a set of departments. You have marketing, you have call center, you have sales, you have production and installs, and then you have your accounting HR. And for us, call center has always kind of been the stepchild of the company. It's just like, okay, cool, just answer the phone, right? And you typically don't think of a lot of the individual or staffing appropriately for that. So I'll give you an example. In this example, when I'm talking about conversion, I'm not talking about like lead website conversions. Those kind of take into effect, but specifically what I'm talking about is leads to appointment conversion. If you're wanting more leads, you better know this number first. because your lead to appointment conversion can make a big difference. So, for example, if I have 100 leads and I'm only booking 85 of those to actual appointments, and let's say you have a $7,000 average sale, and if you close 35% of those, every 100 leads, it's going to get you quite a bit. But then if you can just get that to 87, that can equate to an extra $4,900 for every 100 leads that comes in just by booking some extra appointments. I mean, $4,900 in that example of a $7,000 per sale. I mean, that's massive when it multiplies. So we focused on this quite a bit this last year. We were actually having a pretty high cancellation rate. So out of all the appointments, we're only booking about 69, or out of all the leads, we're only booking about 69 appointments. So it made us stop and say, whoa, what the heck is going on here? Because we didn't want to just keep throwing money into marketing. So now we've kind of refined that and figured it out. It's real easy to look at maybe a call center rep and say, hey, do we really need to hire that person? Well, if it can improve your conversion by 3, 4, 5 points, yes, hire that person. It's massive. Man, if you can just convert more of the leads you got, including past ones, it can amount to so much to the bottom line every year.
When you're counting leads, are you counting every ring that happens on the phone as a potential lead, or are you only counting ones that get answered in a certain time period?
Yeah, I'm counting every lead that comes into our phone lines. Now, if it's a solicitor, we're not counting that. Yeah. And actually, we got a great book back here from Bill Crawford. Obviously, he was on our podcast early on, and just talking about your response rate times and what that means. And then people, they expect you to call back if you didn't get them the first time. Mm-hmm. And I think the stats on that episode were, if we make a phone call and don't get them, we call later that day. But Bill mentions in that podcast, hey, if you call within 30 minutes of leaving a message, you are 23% more likely to book that lead to an appointment. And that's hey, if that thing cost you $100, that and could amount to several thousand, that's huge. It's just we forget of how powerful lead to appointment conversions are in a home service business.
I had heard even once that if you call them back, double dial. So call them back, and then if they don't answer, call them back again, and then call them later just to make it extra clear that we want to talk to you.
Yeah. And I see a lot of contractors on the internet and through certain groups that almost 100% of their communication with a customer is all through text. And I totally understand communicating with a customer on their terms, but a lot of times you can increase your conversion by actually getting on the phone and speaking with them. And I do believe the market's going to move away from a lot of voice-to-voice messaging with people, but at some point there has to be some interaction, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's just a lesson in trying to get better at converting or having capable people answering the phones. Because, man, right now I think our average dollar per lead, another key metric here, total sales divided by the total leads gives you average dollar per lead. And currently our average dollar per lead is about $3,700 right now. So when that phone's ringing, it is worth $3,700 to me. It's we better pick up the phone. So I will put down everything I'm doing if I see that a phone's ringing and everybody's covered up. I'll go answer it. And that's just immensely powerful. So if you know your conversion rates, and I wasn't planning on having that here, Drake, but the bonus material of average dollar per lead, you'll take much more consideration on, hey, how many phone calls did I miss during the day because I've got everything routed to my cell phone? Or versus how many calls, including outbound, did my appointment setter make this week? Because, boy, it's massive. So, and by the way, what are you managing your phone interactions through, Drake? You're using a system or a service there?
Right now, most of my stuff's word of mouth, so I don't really get much on an inbound side, and I haven't done really anything to generate inbound, and so most of mine is just referral.
Well, after a year doing our podcast, Drake, I think you're taken care of. I think you're ready to retire, right?
More or less,
Yeah. What I was going to mention about that is our voice over IP system is a Jive-based system, and it's pretty cool how you can map out when a phone call comes in, the hold message. We call them commercial breaks, so I'll pop in and even speak a little bit about our company while people are holding. But then if that phone call doesn't get answered in a certain time, it bridges to another line, and then it goes to essentially, it eventually does make its way to a voicemail box, but it gets to the point where it's not immediately. It's not after 4 rings. So I think it's right at 12 right now in our system.
This episode is sponsored by Performance, the bonus system designed to increase profits for your construction company. Performance incentivizes your production team for more efficient installs and rewards them when they beat your preset labor goals. So no more milking the clock and no more unnecessary gas station trips. Performance drives your team to work harder and smarter. Every construction company on Performance has seen a 7% decrease in direct labor costs or more. Click the link in the description or visit performance.co to schedule your demo today. That's PER, the number 4, MANCE.co. Reward your team, retain your team, grow your profits. Performance.
One of the cool things that I've seen, and I haven't dug too deep into this, but it's AI that can answer the phone with voice. So I don't know if you've talked to ChatGPT or done the voice stuff with ChatGPT, but the voice is pretty good, but they're coming out with ones where you can have an AI receptionist that actually understands natural language and not the awful automated stuff we're used to. It looks pretty cool.
Well, and there's so many of those coming out now, like AI, which is an outbound service, and it's freaky. Like, it sounds like a human being, but we just started building in AI for our, like, a chat bot. So if somebody has a question, and essentially we start out by, you have to download ChatGPT 4, and then you have to build their block of code into your system. But what's cool about it is you can just take and you have to build out all the use cases. Like, what are like the 20 top questions you're going to get? How do we answer that? And then you just have to keep building on that, and then eventually the snowball just takes over and AI's figuring it out. I mean, it's a great time to be alive. I know there's a lot of people freaked out there about Skynet, but it's like there's some wild stuff going on. What it's going to do for all of us as contractors is drive down cost, right? So It's going to be awesome. So, all right, cool. I knew you saw this one, Drake, but number 7, I did a little background to this. One of my biggest takeaways from 2025, EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, based on the book Traction by Gino Wickman, never ceases to just amaze me. It is awesome. And I do sometimes get jaded when we have something that we've been using, back to Working Genius, that inventive personality. It's like, this is the same thing we've been doing for like 6 years. We got to innovate. But I'll be damned if EOS just is not awesome. And it's a game changer. It's just so hard to implement for a lot of companies because it's complex. But at its purest form, it is simple. Most people think it's like, hey, you just learn it and you do it. But no, it's kind of like a lifestyle. And, specifically what I wanted to talk about was one of the things we did this year at our company is in the EOS model, there's typically a weekly meeting called an L10 or a level 10 meeting. And in EOS level 10 meetings, that's your strategic meetings that pile up all of the problems, and you try to get those vetted out within an hour to 90 minutes. And it's the same format every single week. So you have kind of a segue. You go over your rocks or quarterly initiatives. You go over your scorecard, headlines, previous action items or to-dos. Then you pile in the issues. And we have gotten to the point where we are now, every single department in our company has their own individualized L10 meeting, and it is powerful. Wow. And I used to think like, that really wouldn't work for a sales meeting. L10s work amazing for sales, production, accounting, all of the meetings. And because what it does is it really brings it down to where it's like there's always 10 million problems going on in a company, depending on your size. I know it can feel like 10 million, but it's probably like 10, right? And when you get lost in the whirlwind, it's easier to just be like, hey, if this doesn't have to be solved now, let's put it into our leadership or L10 meeting or department meeting or whatever the case is. And then as a group, we will identify, discuss, and solve that. And it just takes, like, I'm a part of 5 L10s every week, and it's so nice to just be clearly confined into that 90-minute block. And then it's not like a meeting runs into another meeting, runs into another meeting. It's just like, no, we got to fit it within that time block. And if it doesn't fit, we'll talk about it next week. And then off we go. And it's just such a game changer. Any contractor out there, I would say top book. Well, there's a lot of top books, but I mean, E-Myth is a great book for contractors, but EOS is a must read. It's got to be like top 1 or 2 with E-Myth. I mean, it is a game changer. So it's weird. I even use EOS in my nonprofit.
Okay.
And with my board. And it was really weird because in our nonprofit, our construction camp, most people, when they're in a board, they expect like Robert's rules or whatever. Like when it's like, hey, I want to talk about this. well, do you want to make a motion? And does someone want to second the emotion? And it's like, no, we don't do that. Like, all right, well, put it on the issues list, and then when we get there, we'll talk about it if it's important to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so powerful. I had somebody ask me a few weeks ago if I would join their board for their association, and I've kind of made an initial judgment now. I will not join an organization, either a nonprofit or an association, if their board does not have EOS implemented or has the anticipation of having it implemented. It's like herding cats, man, and it doesn't tie things to the big picture and the vision and the core values, and that's where EOS is so powerful.
Yeah. Well, and it also helps with like your working memory, right? So you've got like as owners, like we always have so many different things in our head, and sometimes,
Owners are completely binary, right?
yeah, we have one thing that we're working on. That's it.
Yeah.
But like if you're able to take the things that are out of your head and extract them and put them up, so you know, hey, I don't have to think about this right now. I know it will get discussed at some point. You now are freeing up more resources to be able to focus on some of the things you actually need to focus on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think I saw a meme a few weeks ago that was like, I'm working. Please don't come talk to me. If you come talk to me, I'm social, and then I will want to carry on that conversation, and then I will get nothing done for the rest of the day. And then that's how I feel. So it is nice. It's like, hey, we'll put it in that little container for that 90 minutes every week, and that's when we can talk about it. But yeah, number 7, EOS, man, it keeps getting better and better. Interestingly enough, number 6, this is so weird. Somebody introduced me this idea in April, and it was powerful. And we forget about this. Well, my first documented, I'm going to use documented job, was at a grocery store. And for any of you folks in Florida, there was a good time when Winn-Dixie grocery stores were all over the Southeast. And that was my first job as a bagger or a bag boy at Winn-Dixie. And of course, they would let us know on occasion that there would be a secret shopper coming around. And somebody brought this up about doing this for your construction company, and it was amazing. The amount of stuff that we learned, and we first sought out an individual, actually Jimmy Robertson, who with Electrical Solutions Incorporated, who was on our show way early on. He needed some work done at his house, and he asked me, hey, do you want me to call the office? And I was like, hey, actually I do, but here's a list, and I would like you to just grade my company on everything. And of course, Drake, I know you know Jimmy.
Yeah.
He's a mechanical and engineer at heart, and he's just insanely smart. So, of course, I just expected, 1 to 2 sentence answers for everything. He wrote me practically a novel. But it was so powerful because then we took it back to the team, and it was from every single step of the process. And we have now done that 4 times, and the other 3 have been actual customers where we will capture that customer's information as it comes in before it gets to our team, and we'll let them know, hey, we would love to book you for this appointment, and this is no obligation to buy from us, but while you're going through this, would you mind documenting it and being a secret shopper for us? And most customers, and by the way, some of them said, no, I just want you to help me with my home. But there were some of them be like, yeah, absolutely. And we made the barrier of entry super low. And, we forget, like, we think we know what our customers are experiencing, but unless you're out there in the field every single day, which a lot of owners are, but as you start to scale and you start to get 5, 10, 12 employees, you're becoming more and more segregated from the customer experience. And man, it was super powerful. It cost us nothing to do this other than getting and funneling the feedback. And it's just been super, super powerful. So Drake, do you need any work done on your home? Because I need a secret shopper. And I need you to buy from me, though, because I need to get the full experience. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're going to go all the way.
I'm not cornering you into that.
Well, I can tell you it's interesting because, there's the secret shopper, right? So you're going through and you're having them actually go through it. Some people, though, it's just a reminder, hey, think about your customer journey. Don't even just, because some of us, we get so focused on the output, right? I want to make sure that I have the best output possible. And we forget that you can have the best output possible, but if it was painful to get to that best output, then that can really be a detraction from your company and your service. And, sometimes it's just a good reminder to go, hey, think about the way your customer experiences it. Some people might even be happier. Obviously we all want to do excellent an excellent job. But people might feel better with a better customer journey with a slightly worse outcome than they would the best outcome with a painful customer journey because they're
Yeah.
evaluating all of it.
Yeah. And that's been the great thing. And be prepared when you do this. Like, you're not going to get rainbows and sunshine good news on everything. And in fact, there's some of them that are going to be just downright dirty. And it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, we didn't realize we were that bad. But you know now, and now you can focus on it. And you're right, though, the psychology of the employees, they're not fearful like, ooh, this could be a secret shopper. They're just like, hey, well, what if it is? So they give everybody a better level of treatment just because they want to be helpful. I think most employees want to be helpful to other human beings, right? So when they have that in their brain that, hey, this could be a secret shopper, it can help a home service business tremendously. And obviously, contractors have a stereotype in the world of not being good at customer communication and satisfaction and things like that. So recommend it. And it's nothing special. You mentioned customer journey, Drake. We just mapped out kind of like the 30 steps in our customer journey. And some of them are very minute and hard to document, but some of them is like you saw an advertising. How did it make you feel? What made you call us? So we just never know what that was other than, yeah, I saw I have a need. You had a phone number and voila. But most we found is like, we saw your ad, then we went to online, we checked all of your reviews. And we
Well,
just
and-
assume people hit the call button, right? But no, they do their research.
Yeah, and that's even part of it too. If you don't actually know what your customer journey is, then how are you going to get better at your processes? Because how many things did the customer have to do that they shouldn't have actually had to do? Right? Where was the customer having to do more work than they need to? And if that customer, if you could have taken, if it's 30 steps and you could have taken out 5, well, now all of a sudden you have more throughput through your company, which is leading to more revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, it's wild. But yeah, great program. Love it. And, obviously it probably doesn't work for a content production company
Yeah.
very well, Drake. But, home service guys out there, have fun with it, man. It'll make a big difference in your business. So cool. Look, we're halfway through, Drake. Halfway
it.
through Will's top 10.
That deserves a drink.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Cheers, buddy. So number 5, this one's a painful one. We had a tool audit this year, and essentially what we did is we took all of our vehicles, and for those that are out there in this home service world, me personally, everybody's W-2'd, and we have all of our own box trucks that everybody operates out of. But we decided to do a tool audit, and we pulled every single tool and consumable out of the trucks and put them on the warehouse floor. And boy, it was painful just to see how much stuff we have. We had over 30% of our tools were needing to be overturned because they were inoperable or they didn't meet safety standards. Like cords were cut, things like that. And you know how it is. I get it. The guys are busy and they cut the cord and they're just like, just throw it in the truck. Well, they weren't red tagged. Nothing was going on there. But then we had so much overstock. We had nearly 27% of overstock in tools that are just getting us no return on investment. They're just literally costing us. Not all of them were leased or fleet tool. For any of those that saw the Hilti podcast a few episodes ago with John Abrams, I'm a big fan of Hilti's fleet program. They're just rapid response for repair. So we have probably 50-50. 50% of our tools are through Hilti lease. The other ones are assets that we own. And man, we were it's just money laying around that's not getting anything back to the business. So it's kind of like I want you to imagine like the tool overstock. Let's just take a tool and imagine, you hire an employee and you just have them stand over in the corner every day and they charge you, but they do no work. Well, if you viewed a tool like that, then you'd be like, hey, get rid of the tool, right? Or sell it or offload it or something. But we are still working through that, Drake. So whoever's purchasing your tools, and oh my gosh, I hate to think it, like, I know there's a lot of companies out there that they give the helpers or the field guys like a Lowe's credit card or a Home Depot credit card.
Oh.
Check those receipts. Our guys are actually pretty good, but we catch it sometimes where it's like, hey, we go. And by the way, we have the shoebox rule where it's like, hey, put all your Lowe's and Home Depot receipts in the shoebox. and I'm going to review them over the weekend. And then what do you know? There's a lot of Monster energy drinks and little things like Gatorades there. And it's like, wait a minute, we provide that stuff in the warehouse. Like, stop buying that at markup in the Lowe's aisle. But it's amazing just how much waste comes out of over purchasing in tools, over purchasing in materials. And boy, that was painful. So my lesson learned was do a tool audit at least every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And whew.
Yeah, it was when I remember with my internet service provider, right? We had specific tools that we had to use, and I was doing everything I could to minimize the amount of tools that they would even carry, because I knew like if there were more tools than necessary, they would be, it's you describe it as the person standing in the corner not working. There's also they're not just staying in the corner; they're literally just standing in the way, and you have to go around them every single time, because if you have too many tools, they're and too much stuff in there, then they're having to dig, and that's wasted time, and they need to know right where it is, right when they need it.
Yeah, we could have a full episode. I am hoping to get someone like Colin Reed. He's a 5S specialist that helps with, well, kind of like what Dylan's doing now. It helps with inefficiencies in a business. And yeah, it's like we didn't need to know where that tool is within like 5 minutes, within 5 feet of seeing it, and all that stuff. It's just crazy. So, well, cool. So now, and by the way, this next one is overstock your sales team. And what I mean by that is I'm not, and it's such a, what a hypocrite I am, Drake. I'm sitting here like, hire an employee, make them stand over there, and they do it. But no, I don't mean that. But this relates to contractors that are, owner operators all the way up to, like, we have 17 sales reps right now in our company. You always need to hire a little bit more of what you need for the appointment capacity in your company. If you're real small, I think we had a few episodes ago where it's like if you're hiring your first salesperson, hire 2 of them, because if one of them doesn't work out or for whatever reason they leave or you have to terminate their employment, well then you're constantly in whiplash trying to get back into that sales department and get it fired back up. So in our organization, I mean, we had some turnover this last year. It wasn't involuntary, it was voluntary. So we had an employee that relocated because they had sick family in another state. Poof, gone. Like, we can't ask them to stay when they've got a sick family member in another state. But then we also had some others that, were just poor performers. So we had that natural attrition that occurs in every business. So as long as we have, a good 10% of capacity over, what do you know? They generate more leads even on their own, and then they sell more. And then next thing you know, so in our company, typically I would suggest to any contractor, if you got 3 sales reps in the world, never stop recruiting for salespeople ever. Like, constantly keep those relationships going, and then when you're ready, you can pull a trigger. And also that depends on your ramp up time. So it takes us about 6 to 8 weeks to train a new hire to get them into the field and working with customers. So that's something else you want to take into consideration. Like right now we're coming into winter, and on my business we get slow in the winter. Well, we don't have a lot of leads going around, but it's like we're training people now, because in January when it starts firing back up, we want to have all the sales reps there ready to go. And so I can't overstate that enough, that overstock your sales team. And I'm not saying by double, but at least by 10 to 20%. And it'll make a big difference in keeping the inconsistencies out of your company. Now, in your business, the low voltage world, Drake, I mean, you kind of were the sales rep and the technician, right?
I had people in the office. So my call center was mainly sales. So we weren't necessarily salespeople. We were more order takers, right? So they needed to be able to describe the product, suggestively sell it, but they weren't responsible for going out there and getting their own leads. And so it was just turning every single call center person into the same type of person who could take it, process it, knew all the questions, knew the way that we were phrasing it, so that people knew what kind of experience to expect. So it was a little different than like, a call center sales where they're separate.
Yeah, I tell you, so my advice, keep in mind, is from a home service business where we can clearly define, estimate, and sell a project, but, and we're very residential based. But
and so your people you had your appointment setters, right, that were then the ones who were setting the appointments for the salespeople to go out, right? Yeah. And they're the experts on the ground that are pointing out all the things that need to get done, right?
Yep, that's it. There are some companies, like, for example, like, Brett Tatum, Tatco Construction, was on our show a while back. They're about to cross like 50 million, and they started in 2020. Blows my mind. But now he's doing that where he's stocking up his estimators because he can only scale beyond his count of RFPs coming in, right? So he's getting those estimators in and lined up to where, hey, the more nets you put in the ocean, the more fish you're going to catch, right? And they come at a relatively good percentage of cost to a sale and what that introduces into the cash funnel. So, but yeah, speaking of which, back to sales, I think it was episode 22, and man, we're rolling that back up into our new formatting, but Jesse Davis, who's a good friend of mine, started Green Sky Finance. They're an in-home finance company. I think we're pretty good at selling finance, but after talking to Jesse during that podcast, I realized how bad we were at presenting and using financing as a tool to help sell projects to customers. And to be clear, we have two products that we use in our company. We have a straight installment plan. There's currently a 9.9% interest rate that's funneled to the customer. And then we have a zero interest plan. So since working with this and focusing on it, in 3 months, our closing ratio went up 8%. Our average ticket went up 1,200. So our average ticket's just shy of 10,000 right now. So just by presenting financing and talking to customers about it, it was just, boop, everything went up. And I know we hear this a lot on Facebook groups where it's like, well, I don't want financing because I don't like the charges. Well, it's like, up your price, man, and then just build that into your costs because a lot of a little is still a little, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, yeah, you want the best of both worlds. You want the volume, which financing helps with, but then you also want it at a good gross profit margin that is sustainable for your company and your business. But yeah, blew my mind because sometimes we have topics on podcasts that it's like, yeah, that sounds good in theory, but man, we put it to work after having Jesse on, and I was like, pooh, I'm glad I did. That was the best ROI I ever had, Drake, was that episode.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's significant, 8%, and then what was it? It's a 12%, almost a 12% increase in your overall ticket, and then the 8% closing rate. Once you add in that extra 12%, that's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, and then since then, just scaling up, that was just an immediate 90 days after that episode when we started refocusing on it. It's gone up about 12%, our closing ratio has. We've had some changes in the market, but our finance jobs by percentage have gone up. And there are some fees. You just got to be real smart to make sure you're reviewing those merchant fees and negotiating them and constantly moving around different promotional plans. And it's something you got to keep on, but game changer in business, present financing. If you want to learn more, Drake, I think it was episode 22 with Jesse that we had. And that one rolls back out in January. But Jesse Davis at Green Sky is awesome. And then a funny thing, because this was a hot topic on our viral TikTok post, number 2, understanding margins. And margins are, I don't know why margins are such a misunderstood word in construction.
Well, some people think they're too gross.
I know. Yeah, well, believe me, I've seen some of my margins, and they are gross. No, that was good. That's kind of like the episode we had with Matt Jones where you put the little insult joke, the lawyer joke timer. You'll have to build in your soundbite for the drums. But okay, so let's get this clear. And the reason this is powerful is I really wanted to focus on something this year, and I'm going to get to it. But any of the direct expenses that are tied to a job, those are direct cost of goods sold. So you have income, then your cost of goods sold, then whatever's left over, that's your gross profit margin. Gross profit margin. Anything else that cannot be tied directly to a job, your office staff, the rent on the building, the insurance, all of that, benefits, that's indirect overhead. Then you take that out, whatever's left over, then guess what? Then you have net profit, and then you get to decide whether or not you're reinvesting it, going to pay taxes on it, and we'll get into another episode later about the depreciation or amortization of the assets. But gross profit margin is on the front end. Net margin is after everything else is paid. So I think we've got a lot of contractors out there that are thinking gross margin when they should be thinking net, but that's okay. I was there too. The reason this became so powerful and why I focused on it this last year is by understanding gross profit margin. I can go up to any one of my managers and say, what is our break even this month? And they take gross profit margin divided by their fixed expenses, and they can give me our break even within about 10 seconds. And for a manager or even a foreman or a field supervisor to know that number has so much power in your business, because they can immediately know that we don't make any money till we cross this line. And we start to think a little bit in construction that, man, our expenses are all over the place. But, mark it up a little bit and take it on average for the year, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what those fixed costs are and your gross profit margin. So then that way you can rattle it off. Another reason why gross profit margin is so important is because for every dollar over break even, you're not making $1. You're making $1 minus your cost of goods sold. So that's why such an important number. I've known ours quite well, but what I did this year is I pushed that down the organization and really educated our team. And I'm proud to say that most of our foremen, field supervisors, managers, they know it better than most contractors out there in the country. And I'm really proud about that. So I think it's something that as contractors, we need to educate ourselves and our employees on the difference between gross margin and net margin, because once they understand those both, it helps tremendously in making sure that, well, back to purchasing at Lowe's and Home Depot, they start to really look at that, how much that's affecting things. And a little side quest here. I was working with a company this morning out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Drake.
Yeah.
And this is specific to residential in-home construction businesses that don't use subcontractors, because people categorize things in so many different ways in their P&L. First thing I look at, we call it the big five. So number one, I take the marketing, the indirect labor, that would be the office staff, the owner's salary, things like that. Those two. Then I take material, direct labor, meaning the field employees, and then I take sales commissions if you pay sales commissions. If those five are at 70% or below, you have a profitable company. If they're at 70% or above, then you're typically at break even or you're losing money. So when I walk into, or I have a business that I consult with, if they're within that kind of definition of a home service company, first thing I look at, what is your big five? We tally those up, then I know exactly where we got to work. And it can be done super fast. So the big five: marketing, indirect labor, material, commissions, and direct labor. Those five, you want to keep those below 70% in your construction company. So a little side quest there. Sorry, Drake, I got preachy today.
No, you're good. It's also so important to understand your gross margin, because anything that you increase in your gross margin, as long as you're not increasing your overhead, goes straight to your bottom line. So every percent that you make, every percent that you increase your gross margin, that goes straight down to the bottom. That could be very much the difference between 10%, net margin, 10% net profit to 15% just by adjusting your gross margin. Yeah. Which is why paying for performance increases in your workers is so important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and actually, that's the stone that kills two birds, right? Mm-hmm. Performance pay decreases labor, but increases output. Mm-hmm. So then you're getting to break even much, much faster. You're getting to break even in a sports car rather than, say, for example, a dump truck. And that's what's wild is we have seen most companies are increasing revenue output by 38% on average just by instituting performance pay. Super crazy stuff. It's nuts. So, but anyway, last one. We're down to the final. And we're finishing this a little different today, Drake, because it's not going to be like, hey, what's a famous screw-up that you had or anything like that. But actually, I think this is a good list of my screw-ups that I had to refocus on this year. But anyway, we decided to change some things up this year. I was not personally optimistic about the home service market in 2024. However, I'm still, I like to grow businesses, right? I like to grow all of my businesses. And I think we find that most contractors, they want to do the same. In many cases, they want to grow by 100+%, and that scares me. I've been there. It's chaos. If you can take the pain, knock yourself out. But whether or not your wallet can take the pain, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. But aiming for the same goal in 2024 than we did 2023, all the same targets. We actually saw an increase in net margins by 30%, but we still grew by 20%.
Wow.
It was like, hey, let's just everybody do the same thing, and we're going to aim for the same sales, same appointments, same installs, same that. And everybody just naturally got better by like 10%. But then the result equaled a 20% growth rate. And we saw, because of that refinement in everybody's skill, 30% increase in net margins. Let's go back to the one before. Net margins mean profit, money, like the good stuff, right? Distributions, all of that sort of thing. So I would stress to anybody out there that if you're in hyper growth mode and you're starting to see the gears and the sprockets fly out from your business, and it's like, oh gosh, Drake, you know that movie? Oh gosh, oh brother, where art thou?
Yeah.
Where Babyface Nelson is coming down the road, they're walking, and then the car's coming and the money's flying out the window. Like that's a high growth business. It's like, when we're growing, but all the money's just flying out. So I'd stress to you, I want to grow, but also it's one of those where it's like, hey, if you don't want to grow, or if you don't try to grow, it's wild how you still grow.
Yeah.
And boy, the rewards are so much better. So I guess a nice little statement there to go along with it is the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it.
Yeah.
So we started to water it in the refinement of some of these things. And I'm telling you, as you go into look into 2025 and you're looking to stomp on the gas, maybe let it off a little bit, because you may find in a high growth team, you can really actually get more in your value for your company and more in your net profits if you just slow it down and try to hit the same target and refine it. Just keep refining it. So cool. Well, Drake, that is a wrap on the first year, buddy. Yeah. It's been a journey and it's been fun. We got some new things coming out, right, Drake? Some new products.
Yep.
You guys will get to be introduced here in a few weeks to my 6 foot, 280-pound brother named Adam Blake. He is so ugly. I'm just kidding. Love you, brother. We're actually going to be doing some content specific for the foundation repair industry and some shorts and content there. Looking forward to kind of getting his knowledge base in here, because just together we've done so much in this industry. And we know there's a lot of folks out there starting their businesses in this space, and we want to be a support mechanism for you there. So we're really excited about that. And then, of course, we've got our merchandise going out to support our camp. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to, I guess, is it now where we officially have season 2, Drake? Is that
we can do it?
Okay, I didn't know if it was like one of those Japanese animes where they run 400 episodes and then they go into another season. Or it's like a Netflix where you have 6 episodes and then you have another season.
It's kind of tomato. I don't know that we're going to change the storyline that much. We keep talking about contractors kicking ass, and just keep going.
Yeah. Well, otherwise, it's been a great year. Thank you guys for listening, all 8 of you now. And then Drake, I appreciate you as a producer. Terry and I will be back next week. We've got a great roster of guests coming up, and I just appreciate all you guys for listening to us in another week of Beers with Contractors. We'll see you next week, everybody.
See you guys.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder: Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.